Yeah, I should say that, shouldn't I? Oh. I think we're live. It's gone carnage already. I think we're live with no countdown. We've just gone straight in. You can tell crackers and Matt are at the wheel.
Hello and welcome to the Chuckle Brothers. Welcome to Last Word on Spurs. I'm your host, co-host, collaborative, cooperative amongst us all. I'm Richard Cracknell, and welcome along. We've got our Spurs shirts on, always moving forward, always looking for the next ball forward, as to paraphrase Ange. And yes, looking back on another pre-season win. Joining us to discuss this best show episode ever, as somebody's put it. Yeah, of course. It's like Formula One, isn't it? You're just waiting for the big pile up on the first bend, and then you can all go off to make a cup of tea for the next 2 hours until the end. Next to me, on my right, is the one and only Macca, Mr. Lee McQueen in the house. How are we doing, Lee?
Crackers, lovely to be here. And that was my fault straight away on the old mess up on the front line. But yeah, happy days. Really good, great game to watch. Actually, some really good talking points. I know it's a pre-season friendly, and that's what our lens is going to be, is a pre-season friendly. But nonetheless, some really good talking points. So I'm really pleased to be getting into it, mate.
Super stuff. And also joining us today, sports football media content creator, all-round bon vivant, good lad, with one of the greatest Spurs shirts on ever. Look at that, the Purple Pony. I think that was a pub I used to go to in Rochdale back in the day, by the way, the Purple Pony. George Achillea in the house.
How are we doing? I'm buzzing to be talking about Spurs because, a win helps. But yeah, pre-season, getting into it. Happy to be with you guys. Let's go.
Excellent. You all well, George? Yeah, all good?
Yeah, I'm all good. Keeping well. Trying to be stress-free while there's no full-time Spurs stuff going on. But yeah, all good.
Brilliant stuff. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, he is the one, the only, the man that must be itching to get out of here because the Olympics on. I know he's all over the break dancing and skateboarding this year, the underwater soot juggling. I think Azerbaijan are favourites for the gold in that, aren't they? It's Jason McGovern.
Test match is on at the moment. I mean, this is crazy. No, it's evening. I was going to say evening all, but of course it's still morning, isn't it, or whatever it is.
It is evening in Japan and in Australia, as Fiona's just pointed out as well. So it is a good evening somewhere in the world. It
was a thoroughly enjoyable 2 hours of watching. That was. I thoroughly enjoyed that game. So plenty to talk about for sure.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. That's a good springboard to start with. I thought the intensity of the game. I'll start with you, Macca. The actual intensity, it felt like there was something on that, because normally they can feel a little bit, this is pre-season, but I don't know. It just felt like there was a good intensity, almost like there was some sort of cup to be lifted at the end of the game. Obviously not, because we won the game. If there was a cup involved, no chance.
Would have happened. Yeah, I thought we'd go to penalties, cracks. I said to you, like, the back end when I was like, oh, what time are we starting if it's going to penalties? I actually agree with you on the intensity, and it's obviously the heat out there is intense. I know Jason will mention this anyway, but I want to give a massive shout out to the crowd. It's one of the reasons why we have to go to these tours. It's at times. I mean, Jason sits in the south stand. Crackers gets tickets and sits wherever he needs to sit.
Sit where I want.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously George and I are in the south stand week in, week out, and some of the songs that they're throwing out there, Basuma songs, just goes to show you how worldwide this great football club ours is. And so I want to give a massive shout out to the fans, to a man and a woman and a boy and a girl, Spurs shirts everywhere, absolutely idolising our football club. And it's just lovely to hear and to see that as well. Singing one of our own songs when the likes of Skippy comes on, and Mikey Moore and Jamie Donnelly, and the like. So I just want to give a shout out to them. But I did think that the intensity was a good one. And you've got to remember as well. I think in the J League they've played 24 games already this season, so they are mid-season. So this team is fourth in the J League right now. They're unbeaten in the last 5 or 6 games. And I'm not trying to talk Spurs up, but we're coming into it from a pre-season, so that's a leveler. See what I'm coming from? That's a leveler already, right? They played 24 competitive matches, so that's pretty cool. And I thought we did really, really well. So yeah, I was really. I was pleased to see that level of intensity, and you could see. I think you mentioned it on the group, didn't you, Crack? Is the patterns of play and some of the key stuff that we're looking and trying to do was definitely there, wasn't it?
Very much so. Yeah, it was. George, coming round to you. I know that there's a lot of older fans, probably in my sort of age bracket. Check out the white hair of my dotage, that do shake their fists at clouds and talk about, this game's gone and this and this and this is that. But it is important now for a modern football club, modern day football club, to go out and be a worldwide brand, isn't it? It is all part of football as we know it today. And I mean, you could clearly tell that was Japanese fans getting involved. I mean, obviously, there wasn't thousands of away day Spurs fans there or sort of European fans. So this was local fans singing the song. The atmosphere they created was absolutely incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was genuinely really taken back by it. I was quite surprised because, sometimes you might think that these games could, like you said before, could be a bit flat or whatever, but no, massive credit to them. They were phenomenal. And like you said, we have to go to these places. There are Spurs fans around the world. We're probably one of the most followed clubs out there right now. And it's nice to give them a chance to actually see what it's like to see not just a Spurs team, but actually a competitive team. Because I know we've had it in the past where maybe we go abroad and then sometimes it's literally just the kids. You don't see the big stars like Sonny come to play. So for them to see him play for what must have been about 60 odd minutes in the end was phenomenal. No, they brought an amazing energy. And yeah, a club nowadays, you've got to be clever on how you got to make more revenue. It's not just the match going fans anymore. If you want to be ahead of the game, you've got to reach the worldwide audience. And I think we've done a great job of that so far.
Very much so. Jason, I'll come to you. George mentioned Sonny there. Not maybe on a purely football basis, but as a football star, we saw again today with Sonny. I mean, he is the Beatles, isn't he? He is literally up there with a Messi and Ronaldo as the brand of a football star. I mean, please don't come in the comments, oh, are you comparing him to Messi and Ronaldo? No, I'm not. But as a brand, as a football star, it is incredible, isn't it? Every time he touched the ball.
Absolutely. He'd hold his own with those two in terms of marketing and things like that within Asia. And I've always said, I think the big difference with Sonny, he carries Asia. If Neymar goes to Argentina, he gets booed. If Messi goes to Brazil, he gets booed. You'll have Mbappe get booed when he comes to England as such. Sonny doesn't get that anywhere. He carries Asia as an entire continent. And that's a big difference from the European superstars. And the noise when Sonny came off, the reception he got from that stadium. As a Korean playing in Japan, there's a rivalry between Korea and Japan, but there's no sign of it when it comes to Sonny. He's a dream. And, when people talk, I'm lucky enough that I lived there for a long time. I know I saw lots of pictures of Thai Spurs boys there. I know what Tottenham means, the ability to see Tottenham in those countries means to those fans. I know the amount of money they spend travelling to those types of games, travelling to London 2-3 times a year, and the whole tourist fan thing just is I find it ridiculous when they're criticised as tourist fans. And AIA spend 44 million a year sponsoring our football club. Wow. Of course you're going to go to Asia. It's not a meaningless Levy money spinner at all. There's 44 million reasons to go to these countries. And, your sponsor wants their pound of flesh as well. So I'm delighted we go there and just to see the reception, to see the enjoyment that Tottenham take, and it's not just Tottenham. you know, we see it in other parts of the world with the other clubs as well. That ability to take it overseas, and it is hugely important that clubs do that. All clubs, but particularly for Tottenham, I think.
Yeah, very, very much so. Lee, I'll come round to you. It's our chance to shine as the Chuckle Brothers again. Have we got a starting lineup graphic? I bet we haven't, have we?
Hold that thought, crackers. Hold that.
Moving
thought.
on swiftly, we'll edit that out. Oh, we're live. Oh, anyway, starting lineup was now Ricky, when he hosts this show, he goes and he prints off on fine bonded A4 paper all his notes. He actually types them up. Here's mine, scribbled down. There's the difference. That's why, Rick, we love you and hurry up back. We started with Vicario in goal, Porro, Royal, Gray, Davies, Biss in the middle, Sarr, Maddison, Johnson, Kulu, and Son up top. So any surprises in there for you, Lee, with that starting lineup? For me, it looks like he's trying to play one or two players in this pre-season just out of their normal routine, out of their comfort zone, if you like. I think he's looking at a lot of the adaptability of players into differing roles, isn't he?
Yeah, and actually, I think it was quite interesting as well. I mean, the Spurs play, Ben and Clive did a bit before the game as well, didn't they, about what is expected, the lineup and that type of thing. And I think they started almost like a diamond, didn't they, up front in a kind of diamond formation. I think what I always say about pre-season is obviously a bit of a cliche, but it's also true. Is that, you know, it's all about getting minutes in the legs, isn't it? It's about getting them up to speed. I mentioned right at the opening that, you know, Kobe have already played 24 games in the J League already. They're mid-season, so they are just literally picking up and cracking on. Whereas with us, you know, this is about getting minutes in the leg. So, you know, from that perspective, I think it's important that that we look at the first team or the starting lineup. But I thought it was quite interesting the lineup that he did go with today is getting closer and closer to what we're probably going to see in the Premier League. But I also want to caveat that with saying this. We only had one available actual plying his trade as a centre back today, right? So even the left-sided centre back in a 3 started as a left back, right? So, you know, so I think that's also really important. Archie Gray's been magnificent so far, but he's played as a centre back. And we saw a glimpse of him for 15 minutes in the second half, maybe hitting his number 6 position. So I'm not too worried at the moment about kind of who's playing where and that type of stuff. It's just about getting gains, intensities, patterns of play, minutes in their legs, that type of thing.
Yeah, very, very much so. George, I'll come to you on young Archie Gray. Wow. I mean, okay. Let's do the normal caveats of young, pre-season. Okay, that's out the way. Let's speak about Archie Gray, this player, because he looks sensational, doesn't he?
Generational question mark? I don't know, maybe. Honestly, to be honest, I knew he was versatile when we signed him, but didn't I think he'd be probably our best centre back at the club without the main dogs being there. So, no, I think again today just showed how composed he is on the ball. It's a joke for such a young player. Some of the line breaking passes he was doing it, playing into Kulusevski, who was up front at some points. Even just under pressure was able to turn play as well. There was that one little move where he shuffled in and out of about 3 or 4 before, losing the ball sadly in the end. But to be honest with you, yeah, I was thoroughly impressed again. And we still, apart from maybe 10 minutes into the second half, we haven't really actually seen him in his natural position either. So the fact that he looks so good playing as a centre-back, I'm excited to see what he does going forward throughout the season, if he's going to provide some real competition for Basum. And it looks like he can do. Yeah, unbelievable. What a signing.
Yeah, very much so. Jason, it looks like some of the senior players, we will get into the game in a minute, by the way, but we're just shooting the breeze at the moment. But some of these senior players look like that now you've got these young go-getters up behind them. It's something that they absolutely need, because they know if they slip or, you know, they think they're on easy street, think again, Bucko, because there is some kids coming up behind a lot of these positions, isn't there?
There definitely is. And even Porro, you can see that he's starting to feel, you know, I've got a little bit of competition at the moment behind me. So it's great to see. It's interesting to see Kulu playing much more centrally, and he had Sonny wide left today. So and Kulu with one of his trademark little drag back heel passes, isn't it? It's becoming the feature of pre-season. So yeah, lots. I mean, as George said, the passing of Gray in that first half, the line breaking passing of Gray was excellent, and it was. You know, other than Pape Sarr, probably Pape Sarr had a bit of a nightmare day, didn't he, today? But other than him, I think it was a useful exercise for all those that came on, and then we saw some really good performances from the youngsters in the second half. So no, it was a really good exercise. But the heat, you know, just for people to understand, that heat kicking off at over 30 degrees in the heat, and they've been training at 35 degrees heat. You know, if you've never been to Asia, the heat and humidity there is draining. So that's another part of the exercise to see. It was interesting to hear Ange shouting at Lancashire to close down at the end, but the bloke's probably knackered, having never experienced heat and humidity like that in his life. So that's another part of the thing that people don't understand, really.
Yeah, very, very true. Listen, for those listeners on audio, we are about to take a break. That's another tenner that Ricky owes me because I've got to break in on time to get the adverts, and I'm on 10% of them. £2.20 I'm getting of these. For those of you watching, and there is well over 8.5 million of you watching now. You can tell I went to
Please like and subscribe, yeah? Like and subscribe. When Rick gets back, the subscribers will be over 1 million on YouTube. He won't know what's going on. It's all down to us four right here, right now.
That's it. And we can share £5 between us in his subscription funding that he gets every month. £5 King Charles pounds we'll get between us. So, Lee, I'll come back to you. That first 5 minutes and then leading up to the goal on 8 minutes, I knew that they were mid-season, but I was thinking to myself, oh my days, it's 30 odd degrees. They are mid-season. They are absolutely peppering us. This could end up looking really, really bad. And then a terrible, terrible misunderstanding at the back leading to their opening goal. I mean, Porro sort of stopped. Sarr didn't. He got caught between being New York or New Year and Bop 1-0, wasn't it, on 8 minutes? And it was oh my days, this isn't good. This is not good.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why the game was so intense as well, because we almost had to match their intensity, and they put that right out there from the off. I mean, I think it was just a bad bit of communication, wasn't it? Like even Sarr was saying when he made the mistake, he was sort of like that. No one's telling me. He's cupping his ears, and he was sort of saying like, no one told me that because there was no one there. He could just let the ball run out of play. But he didn't know that, and it was a mistake. And again, I think you'd rather have them sorts of mistakes in pre-season, obviously, than in the league, and that's why we have these sorts of games. I think for the cynics out there, they would say, yeah, but Lee, we had a lot of these sorts of mistakes last year in the defence, and it's a hard one to argue, isn't it? But I think one of the things that is a bit of a worry, and again, put it into context, we've had one player playing centre back in the whole game, which was Ashley Phillips. He didn't even come into the second half. There's none of our senior centre backs, even with even on the bench at the moment. But that back post scenario has happened quite a lot, whether or not it's been set pieces or balls whipped in. And there was a lot of space here. I mean, if the obviously I don't know, I'm going to butcher the names even if I did know it. So if they're one of their players on your position took a chance on that, he's in at the back post free because there was 2 men actually there anyway. It was a bit of a mess, wasn't it, to be fair, that goal. But I think that intensity kind of, and that's why these games are good. And I think that's why one of the reasons why the coaching staff have chosen these as well is that they are of a good stand. I think somebody put in the comments earlier, this is a bigger test than Hearts and QPR. And I have to agree, because they are at a level of a different intensity, the heat, the humidity that Jason's just talked about as well. So it was a bit of a mistake. A bit of a calamity, like me starting a show this afternoon, but But the reality is we have seen that, haven't we, in the Premier League, and that's the bit that will start to worry some of the cynics, as it were.
George, as Lee just said, this show needs a Ricky Sacks to make sure that these calamities don't happen. And the Spurs need a Ricky Sacks in that back line, because Lee's quite right. We saw that a few times last season, didn't we? Either from set pieces or play. And we kind of saw that again today. It's almost like a spectre and a hangover of last season. Does that concern you, seeing this going into pre-season? And what do you think could fix that? Or is it a bit, well, that's not our back four that we're going to be starting against Leicester with, is it? So,
yeah, I think it's more that. It doesn't really concern me yet. I mean, we're only going to get a couple of games maybe of seeing our actual back line. So it's not going to be a great test. But yeah, I can't really fault the current players there, because they're pretty much all out of position. It's Davies' first time back for like the whole of pre-season, and to be honest, we all know he's not going to be starting next year anyway. I think Porro had he had a great first half anyway. Some defensive moments, got a goal, was up the pitch more than he was at the back, to be honest. But yeah, I've got no concerns, because we saw what Romero was like again in Copa America, phenomenal, winning yet again, and then yeah, we know what Van de Ven and Dragoshin are like. So I'm not worried yet. I think we've got to wait and see what they're like coming back, but. Yeah, I would say that we cannot go into the season with those currently as our defence.
Jason, for you, that goal in the defence, but would you also give us a few words on Ben Davies as well, that's reached 10 years now? I know the club shop's not doing hundreds of shirts with Davies on the back of them, but I think he probably gets a bit too much stick for what he deserves, doesn't he? Doing 10 years, and I think he also brings something to the team more than his football as well. And I think you do need that in a squad and a dressing room, don't you? Primarily, you've got to be a good footballer, but there is other elements, isn't there, to a successful club and dressing room?
Well, there is. I mean, the gentleman there's just said about, can we mention Spence, and Ben Davies is the exact polar opposite of a Jed Spence, isn't he? Somebody whose professionalism and that is exemplary. And I think they said on the coverage today that Archie Gray's already spent loads of time with Ben Davies. Getting the influence of Ben Davies. 10 years is remarkable at a club like Tottenham, and it was strange when his wife put that message on IG, didn't she, that said he doesn't always get the love and that, and you feel a little bit sorry for him, because Michael Dawson was revered and Ledley was revered and all these players that have been there a long time, and yet when you talk about shirts crackers, I don't think I have ever seen a Ben Davies 33 shirt on anyone in the crowd. Not once.
Rick's got one. And Rick's got one.
No, Rick's has got Davies 6.5 on the back of it.
Rick told me he's wearing his Davies 33 shirt into Love Island when he goes in later this week.
But even when we had Danny Rose and everyone was raving about Danny Rose, when you actually look back at that season, Ben Davies actually played more games than Danny Rose even that season. So it's strange. No, it's just a model professional. You do need. Yes, he has his limitations. I think he'd be the first to admit that. He plays within his limitations, but he doesn't make the type of mistake that Pape Sarr made today, does it? It's if he makes a mistake, it's down to he'll get outpaced or he'll get out-muscled or something, but it won't be a stupid back pass to somebody. And when I look at some of the goals we concede, I mean, Ant calls us mistake FC, doesn't he, in the group chat? Ben Davies, like I say, he has his limitations, but it's very rarely that he makes what I call a really stupid, sloppy mistake. And as Lee's talking about there, people on the far post, it's rarely Ben Davies that leaves his man on the far post, is it? It might be Destiny that gets done or somebody like that round the back, but just his awareness defensively. So he is an important part of the squad. And I think he's doing a lot of, he's obviously doing all his coaching badges and things like that there. And yeah, absolutely, you need people like that at the club, particularly when the Bergvales, the Greys and that are coming in, just to see somebody like that, how they conduct themselves in training and things. It's important.
Yeah. Very much so. Here. George, I'll come over to you. Wax lyrical, please, about Porro's goal on 15 minutes. And have we found a new number 9 with Kulu through the middle? Do we actually need to go out and spend 60 million on a new striker? Surely we can put another ice skating rink in or another block of flats with that money now, can't we?
Well, first of all, on Porro, I mean, like this guy he just only scores good goals, doesn't he? I mean, usually they're rockets from outside the box, but that was just a nice, tidy goal. I mean, like you said, Kulusevski's little flick on was a beautiful and a staple of what we've seen so far from him in pre-season. But no, I mean, yeah, Porro again is continuing to press me even more and more. You know, I think defensively he's getting a lot better. I've seen those tweets making around the other day about how he's got the most blocks from last season as well. And I think that's always been his caveat, is he can't defend, but somehow he's coming out statistically on top of most right backs out there in the league. And added to that, most of the game I keep seeing him up front. So it's nice to see that he's just currently going up and down the pitch, working on both ends. So yeah, great player, but obviously Spence right up behind him. Another phenomenal player who seems to be, he's turning it around big time this preseason. I think all of us pretty much had Spence on leaving. Genoa were trying to get a deal done for him, but he seems to have come back with a different attitude this time around, and he looked quality again in the second half. So if he does stay beyond the preseason and for next year, I think we've got two really good sort of attacking right backs that can kind of push each other. And yeah, Kulusevski, look, like it was in the Sheffield United game at the end of the season, I think he kind of takes that sort of false nine role really well. I mean, we've seen as well for a whole preseason, he looks way more comfortable central than he does out wide. I think the days of Kulusevski being our right winger, I think, to be honest, are over, especially with all the links we've seen from other wingers coming in. So he definitely likes him more in the middle. And I think against certain opposition that are going to press high and do well, I think he could do that sort of number 9, a false 9 role really well. But when you're coming up against the low block, deep defense, you do want a standard, a good, strong striker in the middle, which is why we probably still need to, if Richie's to move on, we do need to look out for another forward there. But no, I think he's got that versatility in him that he can do well in that sort of central areas of the pitch.
Lee, coming to you, Kulu through the middle, as George said, looks far more comfortable, far more happy. 3 assists, I think it is now in this pre-season, as someone kindly just put up on the screen. Thank you. Can he take that into the heat of battle in the Premier League and the upcoming cups and continue that? Not saying that we don't need to buy, but as we say before, pre-season and then getting into the Prem, 2 totally different animals. But he looks happy there, doesn't he?
It's a Daniel Levy and you can see Donna Cullen's in the chat with us right now. It's a Daniel Levy and Donna Cullen dream, isn't it, to have this scenario where you're thinking, hang on a minute, what you're telling me, I don't have to go and shell out 60, 70 million on an Ivan Toney or an 80 million on a Gira Cares or whatever, because we've now got options with Sarr play the false 9, didn't he, against Man City, which arguably the performance against Man City probably got put under the carpet the back end of last season because of the whole Arsenal thing. But actually, we played very, very well that day. And he played a false 9, and now Kulusevski's playing in the false 9 role. I mean, again, you look at it and you caveat with it being a pre-season friendly. At times, he looked a bit leggy. There was a ball that came in for him, and he knocked it in front of him, and he just couldn't get there, and then he fell over. It was like a bit of a Davinson Sanchez fall on your face moment, but at the other end of the pitch. But he's got. Look, I think the technical ability of this team is going in very much in the right direction. I mean, and Kulu is one of them. Decky's one of them players, very, very technical, and he's a left footer playing in the middle, which is also quite interesting. Normally, you'd see a kind of I don't know why, they just look a bit more elegant sometimes, or a bit more tricky. It's like a left-handed batsman and a right-handed batsman, isn't it, Jay's talking about cricket. It's just something different. And, it's quite interesting. And now he's got his mate Bergvall, Bergvall. I know we had Willen earlier in the comments tell us how to pronounce it, but I'm always going to butcher these names. His mate from Sweden as well. Let's just hope that Donna and Daniel will club together to go and buy another Swedish superstar in Isaac. That would be absolutely amazing, wouldn't it? I'm putting
very.
Because James is here.
Jates, let me come over to you just to wrapping up for the first half there of the game and for the show. Club's got maybe a little bit of a tricky balance and line to walk here, because I think you and I are leaning on each other's open door, where we'd like to see a pathway for some of these super talented youngsters to actually come through. But there will be certain calls and elements from the fan base that will demand that money is spent, and it just simply may not need to be spent. So it's not, the normal, the club's not spending money. It's, well, no, we've got that player already. We've developed that player. We have spent money. That was on the academy, and here's the fruits of our labour. So there's a balance to be had here, isn't there? Don't block pathways, but you get accused of not spending. Spend and you block pathways, don't you? How do you square that circle?
Exactly. I mean, Archie Gray's a prime example. People seem to be jumping on the fact that he's 18 as if he's we still need this, we still need that. This bloke's played at Leeds all season under a really demanding Ellen Road crowd. That's not an easy crowd to play in front of. And he's chased promotion all season. And you see him come into that side. You don't need to watch Archie Gray for more than 5 minutes to realise he's a first team player, first team squad member for sure. He's not coming on in the 85th minute when we're 3-0 up against Darlington in the Carabao Cup tie. He's not playing the last 5 minutes against Tromso in the Europa League. He's a genuine first team player, and Lucas Bergvall looks exactly the same, doesn't he? These are two players. I don't care how old they are. They're genuinely in that side, and we seem to be dismissing them completely in this want to go and get this one and go and get that one. When you look wide on the left, whether we like Werner or not, I think we all have our doubts about Timo Werner, but Werner's come in. Sonny's played left today, and yet people are still going on about buying Neto. And I've just put a tweet out today to say that Neto, who's going to cost you 50 million, has played 27% of Wolves' minutes in 3 years. 27%, and people still want to go and spend 50 million and then block the likes of Moore and that from game time. It's just nuts. Sometimes it's not how much you spend, it's the quality you spend it on, and just having a bit of common sense, because this is a really talented group. As Lee says, you can see the technical levels in this side are going up, and it's important that we keep those pathways clear. And we'll talk more about Mikey Moore now, but Mikey Moore is one that you've got to be starting to give minutes to, and the more and more you bring in, the less and less chance. And Jamie Donnelly, who we'll talk about, I think he's had an excellent. This is a bloke who's normally a striker, played as a false 10, plays as a midfield player. He's playing at left back at the moment today. Unlucky with a volley not to score, unlucky when he hits the post not to score. Played a lovely little dink pass, I think, into Ashley Phillips for a header. These are good players. And when you've got to have 4 club homegrowns for Europe as well, I want to see these players playing, not just be blocked by 60 million signings that are going to play you 27% of your minutes. It's just ridiculous.
I think coming on that as well. I mean, I think this is a big debate as well, which is great for the show. I mean, Mikey Moore could have scored a hat-trick today, and he's 16, and he does not look out of place at all. And people will throw at me, it's the J League, and so they're mid-season. They're a good standard. It's a brilliant standard of football. Is it Man City? Is it Arsenal? Is it Real Madrid? No. But the reality is he's a winner. He's won stuff throughout his career through 16 levels, 17 levels, under 18s, under 21s last year. Same as Jamie Donnelly. These guys are coming through. I mean, Alfie Devine, I need to mention him. He's gone under the radar a lot. I mean, I thought he was absolutely outstanding today. Some of them little passes and the little through passes and his movement, they're real. I think they're real. And I think that there's nothing more exciting for me as a Spurs fan. This is not everyone. This is not everyone's cup of tea. There's nothing more exciting for me as a Spurs fan than seeing your own do the business. Now, and even some will say, Harry Winks didn't do the business, but I was in the Bernabeu and I watched him do the business in the Bernabeu when we got 1-1, and no one thought he was going to start, and I was there with my own eyeballs. I saw him do the business. So is he consistent and whatever? But he's still come through. The passion when he first scored his first goal against West Ham, isn't that most of, if not all of our dreams? And these boys, because some of them are still boys, let's have it right, are living that dream. And I just think when you're absolutely, it's hard to, as you said, Crackers, to square the circle, because we want to see. And the thing is about Spurs as well is we haven't got time. Us fans haven't got time. We are running out of time because we want to win. We want to win yesterday because it's been so long. I totally get that, because I have that frustration as well. And am I one of them guys that want a Pedro Neto or an Eze? 100% I want Eze. I want Eze to sign for this football club. I want it to happen. And I say, pay him what he wants, pay the fee, let's get it done. But with an Eze coming into the side, does that block some of these players? And therefore, we don't realise them yet. I mean, some might say with Mikey Moore, he's 16 years old. He's got lots of time to develop, and we can have him when he's 19. If he goes out on loan, he can't go out on loan this year, so he's got to get minutes somewhere. He looks good enough. He feels good enough. He's big enough. Maybe he is enough.
And on
Very true.
When people say it's only a pre-season friendly, it's not the Premier League. Well, then play him in the Premier League. Because he's not going to get that sitting on the bench or sitting in the stands, is he? If he's never going to be picked for a Premier League game, how does he impress in the Premier League? So he's obviously doing his stuff in training. He's obviously impressing those that need to be impressed. He doesn't need to impress the fans. It's the coaches and Ange that he needs to impress. That's the important thing. And then he's getting his minutes. He looks totally at home. He's physically doesn't look a 16-year-old boy, does he? Physically, and so Leicester City opening day of the season for me is a prime chance. I'm not necessarily saying start him, but I'd love to see him coming on 60, 65 minutes and have genuine game time. Certainly up until that 1st of September. Give those 4 games up until the window. Everyone wants to rush new signings in. No, I want to see 1 or 2 of these youngsters get those first 3 or 4 games. And if we're sitting there on the 1st of September or whenever the window shuts, and he's played in all 4 of those games, had 20 minutes here, 30
Jason,
minutes
are you
one,
pretending that you don't know when the window shuts? Are you pretending, Jason, that you don't know when the window...
I don't know if it's the first or the second, mate. It's just does not kid head in. Really does.
George, let me come to you and ask you a little bit about this with the younger players. A lot of them do look ready, and that square in the circle, as I said, of bringing in players that block that pathway. Who for you looks ready and willing and able to actually come through? Because I get that it's pre-season. It's sound like a bit of a stuck record, but I said a couple of shows ago, and Clive Allen actually said before the game today, they actually look mature enough. They look composed. And no matter what level of game you're playing in, whether it's Premier League or pre-season, they kind of look like they're ready. They are composed. They're not phased. They look mature and ready, don't they? A lot of these youngsters.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, it's always like the manager we've got in his style of football fits perfectly with the younger players that we've got in our academy, because they just play without fear, which is what I love. And I think which is what Ange is actually trying to get into the first team players. Like, it's okay to make the mistakes as long as you're then hounding to get the ball back and go again. And you did notice in the second half of last season with some of the older players maybe lost a bit of steam. They weren't really doing that as much. But these young guys that we've seen throughout the whole of pre-season and even in their under-21 games throughout the whole of last season as well, they just don't play without fear. They constantly go on the attack. Mikey Moore down that right side, Divine whipping the same balls and getting the chances created. But Donnelly at left back, popping up in and around the box, almost got a goal, almost creating goals and whatnot. Like, these guys just play without the fear, which is why I think they're going to get more minutes next season. So in terms of the players that I think are probably definitely Mikey Moore needs to be involved around the first team for sure, especially maybe around Europa League. I think Donnelly, we saw him get minutes last season, albeit a few towards the end of the matches, but he's gotten minutes. He's been versatile enough to play left back through pre-season and looking comfortable. I think he's good. Divine's an interesting one because I think he looked great again so far this pre-season, but I think his initial loan last season was great, but then when he went on to Plymouth second half of the season, it was a little bit mixed as to how that went. So Divine, I'm not too sure yet. I kind of want to see a bit more of him before I make a decision. I think there's just the odd few that might need to stick around with the under 21s. Like Hall has been raved about massively, but I still think he needs to develop a bit more, especially with the likes of Gray almost solidifying the fact that he is like a first team, like squad player in that sort of defensive mid position. So the one area in position that I think is the toughest to crack is the striker position. Because whilst Lancashire has looked incredible last season, he's got I think a goal or two so far pre-season. He's looked good. I just don't know if he's necessarily that killer yet to be in the first team. Dane Scarlett, Ange seems to like, but again, isn't necessarily scoring a load amount of goals to say he absolutely needs to be with the first team. Same with Elise. I think that's the one position we need to nail down or maybe look for in the window to sign a clinical striker. But I think when it comes to the rest of the midfield and the young players, I think so many of them are ready to step up.
George, can I just ask? Sorry, Crackers. George, can I just ask your opinion on? Because I know obviously you're all over the signings and all that sort of stuff. You go home and away. The number 6 role. Do you think that's where Gray? Because I think we all agree that Gray is first team standard.
Yeah.
Like we said, and like you just mentioned again there, like Jay said earlier. Do you think that number 6 position is Gray's then? Like, is he battling Basuma right now to stop? I mean, if you were to pick the team and we ain't made that, or do you think there's loads of questions here, or do you think we're going to go and sign another number 6? Like, who is going to start versus Leicester in that number 6 role?
I don't think we're going to touch another number. In terms of signing, I don't think we're going to go towards anywhere near number 6. To be honest with you, that whole sort of defensive mid position is quite dry this window anyway. If you're looking at all the options, there isn't a single defensive midfielder that I think we could sign that I would put in ahead of giving Gray the chance to take that spot from Basuma. And I think that's how it's going to go. I think at the very moment, I think Basuma is still leading that position because he still, again, looked very good in pre-season, going a bit under the radar. But we saw how he dropped off last season as well. And I think that is the position that Gray's fighting for. Look, he's not going to be fighting for a centre-back despite how comfortable he looks. I did think he would be rotating initially a lot more with Porro at right back because he did play a lot of last season as right back with Leeds. But again, if Spencer's sort of making his return and he's going to be the
coming
backup there,
that's the other thing.
Exactly.
Is doing this at the moment. I mean,
exactly.
His coming on the pitch today was insane, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's why I think Gray is that number 6 position with Basuma that he's going to rotate between or push him for that first place role. Maybe Gray plays there in Europa League or other cup competitions to begin with to try and solidify his place. I think that's it. That's why we're linked more to your Ramseys and Conor Gallagher's and so on and so forth. We're a bit further forward in the midfield positions. I just don't think we're going to be signing a DM. I think it's those two that are sort of battling out in that position.
Jason, just finishing up for the first half, we can't skip past on the 30-minute mark the most fantastic, fabulous firework display. We got a very brief glimpse of that, didn't we? But you could hear it in the background. And man alive, I don't know who that was outside the stadium or if it was the club themselves, but honestly, if we throw the money at a striker, what they threw at them fireworks, I think we'll buy Harry Kane back, won't we? It was magnificent.
It was a strange sense of timing, wasn't it? Midway through a half to have a firework display going off. So I don't know if the bloke had pressed the button a few minutes too early and it should have been at half time. But even the players looked shocked and everyone looking up in the sky and. Yeah, quite bizarre to watch firework display during the game, that's for sure.
All right, listen, so that was the halftime break in the game. See what I'm doing here? Here comes the break for our guests and listeners and everybody on audio. That was quite smooth, wasn't it, Lee, actually? I think Ricky would be quite pleased with that, wouldn't he? Nearly as smooth as one of Macca's trips to the barbers, that one.
That's banging, son.
One last thing to pick up on, if I may, Lee, I'll come to you on 35 minutes. The challenge put in on Johnson as he came in at the back post was, I mean, you know, obviously it stopped a goal scoring chance, but that was Ledley King-esque, wasn't it? It was a fantastic stop. He had to get that spot on.
He absolutely did, and I totally agree with the King analogy there. It's or comparison. And I think that's where, you know, maybe you know, some of the people that are not that happy, should we say, with Brennan Johnson in certain quarters will say, oh, he should have done better. But no, that was an absolutely, I mean, it was a tap-in, and it was another what Jason's calling plan A goal, of which I think we scored 3 of them today, and that would have been another one. Yeah, ultimately, brilliant challenge, mate, as you say.
Yeah, good stuff. George, coming up second half now, 47 minutes in, just after the break, and up pops Sonny with a goal to the delight of the crowd. As Jason said earlier, we're more than happy to see him now. He is the Beatles on his own, isn't he, in Asia? And yeah, he pops up, gets his goal, everybody happy. How old's Sonny now? I mean, he's 32, 31. Okay, so
depends, doesn't it? Is he 32 or 31, or is he 31 or 30? Like, you know, some of the viewers in South Korea will be able to tell us, but I think he's 31. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's still a fine player, but there has to be half an eye on him not being a player for Spurs anymore. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he goes straight onto the board or head ambassador or something, a new role created where he is the Tottenham Asian ambassador. They won't let him go. It's as simple as that. But we do need to start having half an eye on who comes in after Son, and he's been incredible for Spurs, hasn't he? On and off the pitch, you know, as a brand and as a player.
He is Spurs. He's locked in for life now, I'm afraid to say it. Well, actually, no, he loves it, so I'm not even afraid to say it. He is locked in for life. I think he epitomizes everything we are and want to be. And he's just like, the fact that he's like such a genuine down-to-earth person as well. That's quite rare to have in these, I feel like, either with these top athletes. Yeah, he's got to be around forever. But you're right, we do have to keep an eye on the future. And I think that's why we're making those moves towards the young South Korean 18-year-old Min-hyuk. I think obviously some comparisons being made, not just because he's South Korean, but just the way he plays on the wing and his goal-scoring ability. Again, I think he scored a goal and assist in his game yesterday after the rumours started coming out that we'd signed him. So I think the club have that in mind. But I still see Sonny with us for the next 2 years at least. Sort of playing at that top level and leading this team, and quotes coming out yesterday with Archie Gray saying how much Son is involved in welcoming him into the squad, and the links that he had with Joe Rodon and saying to look after him and just helping him introduce him to the squad. I think I was saying this earlier, that there are a lot of captains out there that are super vocal and that's how they are, but I think with Sonny, he's almost admired by everyone. Oh, sorry, my camera's just gone on 1 second. But yeah, sorry, I was just saying he's just admired by everyone, and I think he leads that way and sort of brings the team together. Bear with me while
just on Sonny,
no worries.
Just on Sonny, the other big thing for me is, and you mentioned it about Højbjerg earlier in the week when he left, and I mentioned Neto 27% of minutes available for Wolves. You look at Sonny's record, yeah, he gets injuries each year, but he doesn't, you know, I bet Sonny's been available 85-90% of the time for Tottenham. You know, he doesn't miss 6 months of the season and come back for 2 games and then miss another 3 weeks or 4 weeks and constantly like that, is he? Sonny's injury record is pretty good for Tottenham as well, and players like that are so important to have them that you can count. You can pretty much name your team. You think Sonny will be available for that one. He'll be available for that one. He travels huge distances for Korea. Comes back, still plays, even if it's a Saturday lunchtime game, still fits, still performs. Yeah, he might have a bad game, but he's still out there putting his body on the line every week. Whereas so many of those that, like I say, the Netos and things that aren't available, it kills you. And, you know, the big thing with the unavailability of players that people don't understand is it puts more pressure on your backups. and then we sit here and moan that our backups aren't good enough and we need to upgrade this. The backups are only needed when the first team players you've spent 60 million are constantly injured. That's why you need your backups. But Sonny leads the way constantly with his fitness, and it's remarkable his levels as sure and consistency.
You just think about that exact comment, Jace, with Richarlison. I put it in the group earlier. Right? Richarlison's our £60 million number 9. Whether or not we like it or not, that is what he costs, and that is what he is. And yet we've got a scenario where, he hasn't played that much. And actually, when he did come back fully fit after his back problems, I think he scored 12 goals in 9 games or something. He went on a really good run, and then he got injured again. And it's a big part of his part. And it's really, really, and this is where we're talking about kind of the likes
came on, didn't he? He came on in Liverpool, which was match day 34. Came off the bench, played well, missed match days 35, 36, 37 type of thing.
Exactly. And you need to be able to rely, don't you? You need to be able to rely on people. That's why it's so important to get the scouting, I suppose, right as well. It's not just about, and to come back to your point about Neto, that would be a massive risk, wouldn't it? Team, everybody, you got to. I'm all for taking risks, but that would be a huge risk, wouldn't it? But he might come. Might 50 million, 60 million, whatever, and he might play 35 games. But history tells you that's not going to happen.
George, I'll come over to you. 1 or 2 refereeing decisions in this game today, because in that second half, there was a clear VAR handball on the line, which sort of if that's a penalty in the Champions League final, then that's an absolute nailed on cast iron one today. There was Kulu that had, I think, just below his kneecaps taken off as well when he was through, and the yellow. So, 1 or 2 odd decisions which just screamed, okay, lads, come on, this is pre-season. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt here, wasn't there?
Yeah, and I think that's why I wasn't actually necessarily that bothered by the result in the end. Obviously, luckily we got the win. But as the game was played out, I was like, well, Mikey Moore's effort 100% would have gone in if it weren't for the arm being blocked. So we would know in the Premier League, whatever, that would have been given as a penalty. So that's why you got to take context into these things. But I think that was just that's outrageous. By the way, that is 100% a handball. It was down on the floor, blocking it from going in. But yeah, man, it's just not that I feel sorry for him, because obviously we're singing his praises. But the fact that Mikey Moore could have even had more goals today if it weren't for some of these indecisions, shall we call it, from the ref. I think.
I'm with you, Jason, because
where the bloke blanked here as he was going for the rebound.
Yeah, exactly. That's another one.
Again, if that's
Jason, you were screwing for these decisions in a WhatsApp group. And I quite like that, because if you're calling them, wanting them in pre-season, then scream for them in pre-season, you'll be screaming for them during the season, wouldn't you? There was some rascal ones today. That really
that red
was.
Card. I mean, crackers, that red. You're probably coming to it. Sorry, but that red card. I mean, that's a red card all day long in a normal game, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, no.
Albeit Ashley Phillips might have got one as well.
I also think Ashley Phillips' red card, to be honest. I think that was proper as well. They were properly going in. So what, crackers? It's an intense game.
Yeah. George, it almost ended up like it could have been the Battle of the Bridge, couldn't it, today? If the ref was actually on it, it could have well been the Battle of the Bridge all over, couldn't it?
Oh, I think there was one moment as well in the first half. Was it Sarr that maybe had the ball? I think he got dispossessed in the end, but the defender whacked his arm across his face and nothing was given. It was a very, very feisty game for a pre-season match, which is it's good. It's good. We need this intensity to see what it's going to be like in the Prem. So I'm here for it. As long as we're come out injury free. I know Porro had that little was it like a cut on his leg or something that looked quite bad, but I think hopefully he's all good. As long as we come out injury free, I'm happy with it. Yeah,
exactly that. Lee, we get to the 63rd minute and the game goes to 2-2. Patrick scoring for Vissel Kobe. For you, anything in that goal that you saw that sort of worried you, disturbed you? Obviously, it's a goal to start with, but anything in that play where you think, "Ooh, that looks like an hangover" or something we need to be a bit mindful of?
It's a third down, didn't it? To be fair, in a group, that was quite disturbing. Good old Mr. Costa was like, mistake FC.
Mistake FC.
mistake FC, I know. No, and it was a mistake. But the reality of the situation is that we've got a centre forward stroke number 10 playing as a left back. He got caught up the field because I think it was only a couple of moments before that he'd had his amazing volley. So Jamie had been caught upfield. Oliver Skipp, who is a central midfielder, playing as a right-footed, by the way, playing a left-footed centre-back in that scenario, he's had to come across. And actually, it was, did he jump in? Could he have held him off a little bit? Maybe, but it was good feet. Was the guy's name Patrick? Did you say it was good feet from him? Bang, bang, quick feet, like a bit like Archie going in the first half. So it was quick feet, and it was frustrating to let that in. But I think that again, it was a case of, getting to understand the positions. If we'd have had our top five, back five there for Cairo and our back four there, and you'd have been disappointed to concede that. I don't think we concede that if a Mickey van der Ven's there or Dragushin. I think the other key thing as well is that we have been caught quite a lot of times with Ange ball, and I call it Ange ball for this fact, because we play a high line and the fullbacks do go up. The centre-backs do have to do more work. And I think what I quite like with how Archie Gray playing a number 6 scenario, which I don't think Basuma does enough when he plays a number 6, and I personally don't think Basuma's a number 6, by the way, controversially or not, I actually don't. But I think with Archie Gray, he almost can take that kind of dropping in as a third centre-back. Do you know what I mean? And pushing that, what is a left-sided centre-back out to almost like 3 at the back. And that kind of gives you that width across when you're being attacked down that side. Does that make sense? So actually, when your left back actually gets caught in a number 10 position, which is the way he likes to invert and go up the field, you've got a centre back 2 that ends up being a 3, and then they can split. And I don't think we have that enough with a Basuma in a number 6 or even a Bentancur. And that's where George was saying earlier about that number 6 role. And I don't want to make a comparison, but I'm about to. So under Poch, when we used to do that, we'd play like we'd have Wanyama or a Dembele that might go further forward, but we'd also have an Eric Dyer that would drop in when in them scenarios. So Dyer would play alongside a Wanyama or Dyer would play alongside a Dembele. But when we were being attacked, Jan and Toby would split, and Dyer would come in as that linchpin. And so I can see that with a Gray, and I think that's the bit, in my opinion, my humble opinion, that's the bit that we were kind of missing last season. And that's why sometimes we'd have 2 and we'd just rely on Mickey's pace. And again, I just don't think that goal gets scored if we have our best defenders there, and actually the way that we're going to set up this year.
But also quickly on that, when you're talking about that sort of Gray in that defensive mid position and covering and whatnot, this is what I'm really excited to see more of Lucas Bergvall as well. Because today he was playing a bit more advanced when he came on. He was like sort of in that attacking number 10 role. But I think in the previous preseason games, he was everywhere, box to box, collecting it from the defender. He wanted to be on the ball all the time, looked so composed. And if you've got the likes of Gray and Bergvall together in midfield, both like at 18 years old, completely press resistant and not afraid to be on the ball, I think that's what makes those sort of transitional moments so much easier going forward. Whereas maybe beforehand we might have lost the ball. And it's weird to say, but we need to start thinking about like what's going to happen to the likes of Bentancur when he comes back as well. When you've got Bentancur, Bergvall, Sarr competing for the same position.
George, I think he's gone.
I think there is a very high chance of that.
He's gone, and you're right. Some of the viewers and listeners, right, might want to watch the show back, but I actually called it way before the season even ended, and we didn't know that he was going about to throw bottles in crowds and all that sort of stuff, and slur Sonny, which I have got a major problem with. So I just think he's gone. I think you're right. I don't see where. And the injuries as well. I just don't. I mean, I used to really, really admire him and like him as a player for us. I just don't see where he sits into this team now.
I also think his and the injury was completely no fault of his own. It wasn't just out of the blue. We know why he got injured, but it doesn't help that he's had a long-term injury, came back, got injured instantly again, and then that's going to have a long-term effect on him. And I think it's going to be questioning as to what his availability is going to be like going forward, which when you're thinking, no, we're going to rely on Sarr more, who's available all year round. Lucas Bergvall, another one coming in, relying on him. There's links to us signing a Ramsey/Gallagher type player, which you'd like to think is in the exact same position that Bentancur is going to be playing in. So, like you said, I think there's a very, very high chance that Bentancur probably will get moved on.
We paid 16 million for Bentancur.
Bergvall, Sarr, Conor Gallagher, Ramsey, whoever. It's mobility, isn't it? There's all mobility there, and that's where perhaps Roddy struggled once he came back, which is understandable with that injury. I mean, it is the worst injury you get from football. There's no doubt about it. And I feel for Manor Solomon in the same way, because he's the worst one. We all know that. Once you do knee ligaments, it's a killer. But it's definitely affected his mobility, that's for sure.
It ruined my career in football, Jace. I've done my ACL twice. It ruined my career, I'll tell you. But just quickly on Bentancur, and look, part of me hopes that he gets back to the levels and stuff. But if you think about it and I know a lot of people don't like doing this either, but also a lot of people like spending, the millions because it makes them feel great. But the reality is that we purchased Bentancur for 16 million. And actually, his sell-on value is going to be far bigger than that. I mean, he's a £40 million player. At least 40, 45, and you look at that and you think to yourself, if you could get him away to maybe another Italian club, or dare I say a Saudi club, or whatever. I mean, Bentancur he's only 24. He might be a little bit more than that, maybe 25. But again, I agree with you, George. I don't see Bentancur as a 6. I think he can do the job, but I just don't see that he is there. He can do a job, but he's not. The mobility thing, Jason, you talked about, is the 8 that he wants. And actually, he has been one of our better pressers of the ball. But maybe Ange is thinking, with them injuries, it's never going to be the same. It's quite interesting. So I suppose one to watch on that one, isn't it, Crackers?
Very much so. Jason, I also think that under Ange and in Ange's vision of Tottenham, not only do you need to be a certain type of player, I think you also need to be a certain type of person and character and personality as well. I think that does figure quite highly. So is there a chance that we could see some surprise departures because although they're doing well or okay, they're not somebody that Ange quite fancies as a person? He seems really big on that, doesn't he?
He does. And I think we talked about this the other night I don't think any of us would be surprised if Bentancur goes. The only thing in fairness against that, we'd have all said about Jed Spence would go. But, it just shows you, Ange, that if you are prepared to put the work in, and hopefully what we're seeing on the pitch from Jed Spence, he's also really pushing for off the pitch, because we still don't know what's happening off the pitch. But if he forces his way into that squad and becomes a player, then that Ange has pretty much said, okay, fair enough, you've had your second chance. So the opportunity is there if you get your head down and knuckle down and do show that mentality that he's looking for. So you can't write somebody off just yet, but I think there's one or two problems with Rodrigo, not just with what happened in the summer, with one or two things that aren't quite right within his Tottenham process as well.
George, it's a bit like this show, isn't it? I mean, we all come together on here, magnificent, unbelievable, seamless entertainment. We all ate each other off air, didn't we? We're all absolute horrible people. Honestly, you wouldn't have a beer with any of us.
Oh, of course not. No, you should have seen the end of season party. God,
George, to wrap group that we don't let Ricky in, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah. Just to let you know, we've got 35 different subgroups of subgroups on WhatsApp where somebody's excluded, and then honestly, it's a problem keeping up. I think I'm only on 4 of them, but I do know there's 35. So I know there's 31 different groups that don't like me, sticking pins in the doll. So George, I'll stick with you to finish up the show. 87 minutes, lovely work from Donnelly, that done fantastic, and then the man of the moment, Mikey Moore, popping up to give us the win in that game. So lovely move. As I said, great to see these youngsters coming through and doing this. Senior players, beware.
Honestly, it is. And like you said, that is a proper plan A goal, that one. We're going to see so many of those cutbacks or cut across goals throughout the whole of the season. But again, just to speak to how good he is as a 16-year-old, the quick awareness to be in the right position at the right time. Like you saw when the ball was coming across, Mikey Moore just instantly darted towards the 6-yard box and was there to tap it in. Like it looks like a regular old goal, but like to have that awareness already towards the end of a match, you're saying like the humidity, the heat. No, he's just one to really, really, really be excited about for going forward next season. And again, what is that? 5 goals and 1 assist in 5 games. It's thoroughly impressive, man. Can't say much more good about him.
And don't forget, George, as well, that his record on it was the under 17s England in the World Cup before they got knocked out. I think he scored in every single game in that run. I think he scored 3 or 4 goals in the run up before they got knocked out. I think
he had like something like 12 goals in his like previous 11 games in a row or something like that. It was just that is outrageous.
He is outrageous, mate. He's outrageous. And he could have got a hat trick. Now, that ball that he saw Jed Spence running onto when Jed Spence was still like about 25 minutes away. and he had the foresight to go, oh, Jed Spence is going to run there. I'm just going to nip that round the corner. It was a fantastic ball. His awareness, the build-up play, the way he takes, people out of the game with that pass. I think that one pass took 2 people out of the game. I mean,
he could have had a headed opportunity as well. He could have scored where he was in the right position at the back post.
Yeah, exactly. You could see, couldn't you? He's like, I can't believe that it's gone over the bar, and he should have scored.
Good stuff. Right, listen, we're just going to wrap up the show for today. I don't know if there's anything in from the post-game press conference. I have been handed a sheet here, and I don't know how real this is, actually. Apparently, Ange, after the game, said, flaming galah of a ref. He got loads of decisions wrong. Should have been 6 sent off. I'm sweating cobs over here, mate. This is what we do. Apparently, that's what he said. So, but don't quote me on that. Even though I've just quoted him, it wasn't a quote. It's a joke.
I've got a couple of quotes here, actually, proper ones.
Go, Lee. Go proper ones.
Proper quotes from the friend of the show, the great Alistair Gold, who's obviously out there in the presser at the moment. Asked about Mikey Moore and said, Mikey's been fantastic since we brought him in. He's earned his spot on the roster at the moment, and he did that at the end of last year. He's got a run with the first team now because we can see in training that he was handling things very, very well, and followed that into pre-season as well with us. He's been good in all of the games, as George, as you just touched upon. He probably should have had 3 tonight, as we mentioned earlier. He should have scored a hat-trick. To be fair to him, he's done really, really well. But he did take his goal well by being there with the right angles. Also, all we can do right now is to allow him to keep developing. And again, that's maybe a little nudge to say we're not going to block his pathway because he needs to be developed. Continued from Ali Gold and said on Mikey Moore, we have to remember the last year he had some injuries. He's only 16. But yeah, super exciting. I think the future with a lot of our young guys looks very, very promising. But it's our responsibility to make sure they realise their potential and continue the hard work at the end of the game. And I think, team, that's pretty much what we've been saying in here and in the comments as well. It feels like there is going to be a strong pathway, doesn't it, Crackers, for these youngsters coming through?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. An exciting future. Let's hope Dr. Tottenham doesn't come along and pull the rug from under us, because this does look like something quite exciting is building there. So, look,
he also said, just to add on the actual game himself, Postecoglou, before you finish up, Ali asked Postecoglou what you thought of the games. He said, I thought it was a good game. Obviously, the conditions made it quite difficult. The boys put in really as much effort as they possibly could tonight. It's always an aim to put on a show, and it's always nice to give back in that way. Overall, I was pleased. So it feels like the big man himself is pleased with the performance, as we all were, right?
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Yeah, good stuff.
I was just going to say, Crackers, my one word of warning through the first 3 pre-season games is that you see the pictures of training sessions, and it's the same pictures every time, isn't it? It's get to the byline, cut the ball back. You've seen the score 3 goals today that way. You've seen that goal against Hearts. You've seen it against QPR. Whilst you're in pre-season, everyone's concentrating on themselves, what we can do to be better, opposition are just trying to get fitness, concentrating on their game. But when that Premier League starts, you got teams trying to stop what you're doing, which is different in pre-season. And I would imagine there's 19 Premier League managers saying, all you got to do with Tottenham is stop them getting to that byline, force them inside, force it tighter. And that's where we've got to find another way where be it a Maddison or be it like Kulu's done for a couple of those, where that quick flick pass gets you through, because we will become predictable if we constantly just want to play to a plan A goal. So it's something that we've got. It'd be interesting to see when we play Bayern, particularly in the one at Tottenham, where you're a lot closer to the start, and where Bayern are a lot closer to the start, where you just start to think, what are the other team doing against us? And we just got to find a different goal in our system than plan A's goal.
Yeah, I just want to comment on that. I don't disagree with anything you said, but I think there's also an argument or a debate to be had is if you perfect that plan A goal to the point where the opposition know that you're going to do it and you still do it, that's the other thing that you can get better at. And I'll give you an example. What I mean by that is, how many times did we see back in the day Anderton to Sheringham on the corner? Yeah. And he'd scored most times, and then Sheringham started bringing that in at United. So, or how many times did we see that routine at a corner in England a few years ago with them all lining up and Harry Maguire getting his forehead on it? The reality of the situation is that people can know what you're going to do. You just got to be very, very good at executing it.
You can even argue Sonny running in behind Kane to create the ball through. It's the
exactly.
Every time.
Yeah, there's lots of examples. So, but I think that there's the thing that I think we struggled with last season, and I don't think we struggled with as much this season, if we strengthen the right areas without blocking pathways, right? So that's the nature of the beast. Is that, that, like you say, that ability, not necessarily plan B, but that ability to do something different if plan A isn't working, or using the space that plan A goal creates for you to do something different. Does that make sense? Like sometimes last year it felt like that we were trying to score the perfect goal, like the perfect 1-2 touch goal, and that Porro goal, for example, today, that wasn't your plan A goal type scenario. It was a through the middle goal, and that was quick feet in the box, some quick touches, bang, and he scored. And that's the sort of stuff that we need to be doing if it is congested in the middle. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Very much.
Absolutely.
Much to ponder going forward. Damn these 19 other teams and them wanting to play and stop us. Honestly. Right, listen.
I've got a couple of super chats here, Crackers, from the wonderful Donna Cullen, of course. So she's obviously missing us very much in Japan at the moment. Obviously, I'm not over there, so she's missing us. And she's only young, as the same age as Mikey there. For sure, and she keeps asking me if I'm going to South Korea, and unfortunately I'm not. But thank you so much for that. And also, ask you a direct question there, Crackers. Is Mikey Moore the next Cole Palmer? It's one for you to answer.
Is Cole Palmer the next Mikey Moore? I think is more the question, isn't it?
Lovely,
I've turned it on its head, but you're not getting your 40 whatever currency that is back.
Exactly. And the last one, and breaking news here, as we always do on Last Word on Spurs. Admitting not Daniel, but Donna is going to be buying Mr. Santiago. So there you go. You heard it here first. We've got a new number 9 coming into the team.
Oh, thank you very much, Donna, and thank you for your input. That's very kind of you. Lovely, Lee. Fantastic stuff. I think we've managed to get through that. 4,500 people watching. We're at home and hosed. We're across all the socials: Facebook, Twitter, X, YouTube, Mumsnet, MSN Messenger, Friends Reunited, MySpace, Pigeon Post, Semaphore, Metaphor, and any of the other 4s. So well done.
We have got another show scheduled for tonight as well, haven't we? We've got another show scheduled for tonight. I think it's a transfer show. So keep your eyes on the socials for that. Don't worry, team. Jason, you do not have to be on this show. Do not worry about that one. I think it is going to be conducted by the great Matty Hayes. So just look out for that one on your show, on your socials when that goes out live.
No panic, Jason. It won't interrupt you watching that Olympics this evening.
Test match.
I know.
Get the test match on.
Stokes is gone, mate. Stokes is gone. Did you see that?
I know you're all over the pole vault this evening. I know that's on for you.
It certainly won't be the Olympic opening ceremony, was it? I mean, why do we have to have these opening ceremonies for these things?
Lee, where can people find you across the socials, please?
I'm all over X, mate. You can get on my IG as well. Lee McQueen, the original. Lee.McQueen, Lee McQueen. You go for it. I'm all good, mate.
Good stuff. George, thank you very much. Let us know anything that you're up to. Have you got a book for sale or your socials you wish to plug or opening a day centre anywhere? Or
Well, thank you for having me. You guys have been a wonderful, wonderful host today, even with that little rocky hurdle at the start of getting
grassy
going.
arse.
But no, it's a great show today, guys. And yeah, it's literally just at George Achillea across all platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube videos coming back again once the season starts. All good to go. Hopefully see us lift that elusive trophy at the end of the season.
Marvellous. Brilliant, George. And Jason, for you, hanging around the biffer bins, of course.
I've got the trophy.
He's got the... That's it. Look, who says Spurs don't win trophies? Where can people find you when you're not watching Eurosport at 3 a.m?
Lords, St Andrews, anywhere like that, mate. That'll do. That'll do.
Brilliant
Basketball
stuff.
courts, Wimbledon, I don't care where it is.
Brilliant. Listen, once again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Ricky, we love you. Hurry up back. This is stressful. It really is. Trying to keep I'm trying to multitask here. Can't do it. But listen, we got through it. So keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on you Spurs.